Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you guys can hear me too. That will be helpful. So it's good to be back here in the office. It's always a little bit more challenging working on the road. I have like these portable monitors. That's actually really cool, like two of them that I work with, but still it's always a bit more difficult working on the road. So it's good to be back in the office. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. Let's get right to it. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to have a very important week this week. I'm happy that I took the past 2 weeks on the road as the chosen ones for me, because I think really as of this week now things are going to get a whole heck of a lot of different again. So I think we're probably at a point where we could have some pivotal moves real soon. So let me just start off by giving a bit of an overview. So first of all, as I always like to remind people, thanks for being here. Happy Monday. This is our Set the Market morning call. We're going to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes together looking at the market, our top few things on my notepad. If you're new, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's completely free, obviously. That allows you to be updated in real time when we have new research and videos and all sorts of great stuff for traders and investors. Also, we would be very grateful if you could give us a thumbs up like on the videos as well each time you watch them, because that allows the algos to pick up the fact that you're actually watching the video, and that gives us credit. So first of all, before we even look at the things this morning, let me give you a link to a really crucial podcast. I'm going to post it into the chat box here. It's the podcast is on YouTube, so it's a video podcast that just dropped, I believe, this morning, early this morning, and I recorded it basically on Friday with a guy called Luke Oliver. He's just a fantastic analyst and trader, and I would encourage everyone to listen to that podcast. Obviously, it's free. I'm just giving you research here. Go ahead and watch that. The link is in the chat box. I think we recorded, how long is this thing? It's like a 25, 30-minute thing. Yeah, 35 minutes. But you're going to love it in terms of some of the big picture ideas, and then a specific idea that he likes to talk about carbon credits, which is just a fantastic opportunity to learn about being, looking at the market through the lens of a portfolio, not just making one-off sort of gambling shots, which unfortunately way too many people are still doing in this market. But go ahead and watch that again. Obviously free. Just something to hopefully help you get further educated on the markets and ideas and stuff. Okay, we have a big week. Let's start with that. We have a big week, and we're coming into this week, and I can quickly shout. I don't typically like to do this and go through here's the calendar for the week. I think everyone can do that themselves. That's kindergarten stuff, but I'll do it quickly today, because I do think this week it's actually important, because a lot of times it's actually not that important, but I think this week it is important. So this week we have a couple of economic data points that really could be important. So tomorrow on Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern, we get the consumer price index, and that's an inflation gauge, in case you don't know. That'll be important. And then we've got some Fed speakers, but really then on Thursday we have PPI. That's the producer's price index. So the same thing as CPI, but from the producer, not the consumer. And then on Friday, we have an options expiration. So Friday is the monthly options expiration for the monthly options for the month of August. So let me just quickly pull that up. Yeah, so that's on Friday. So there's a reason why this is an important week. It's also, after this week, we're going to be officially moving into the second half of August. I don't even know how that's possible. August just started. But that's what what we're going to have going into the second half of this week, second half of this month is also when a lot more people are coming back from sort of vacation and stuff, slowly, very slowly. And so, yeah, it's going to be a big week. And so, from a portfolio perspective, I've basically hedged out my entire portfolio, my personal portfolio. So I'm basically at this point more or less neutral to market from my big picture portfolios. Short term, I've got some things on, but that's not that relevant. That's much smaller stuff. And so I'm open-minded as to what could happen next year from a market's perspective, which we'll get into. So that's the plan for this week. Keep in mind that for all the AI stories being told out there, the reality is that Max 7, although doing very well again this year, are only, quote unquote, up 10% on the year. Pretty much everything else is beating these stocks. I know that's not what the media would lead you to believe, given what they always talk about. But that's the reality, right? So we can either believe that and respect it or not, but that's the reality, right? Pretty much everything else is beating even completely random stocks like Ecolabs, which has nothing to do with any of this stuff, is up 17%, and Max 7 as a group, MAGS is up 10 on the year. So I think we're starting to see the beginning of that marginal rotation. Well, we've already been seeing it for 12 months now. So just be a good risk manager in this environment would be my number one thing to pass along. Next thing, let's look at a couple of individual pockets of the market, but we first need to talk about, we'll start with equities first, since that's where we're at. This, by the way, here is the chart of Ecolabs that I just mentioned. We just got a new momentum buy signal in ticker symbol ECL. If you are using the Trender scanner indicator, you're going to receive an email this morning with a profit target and a stop loss on that, as you do every morning with our scan of the day. But as far as equities are concerned, we continue kind of chopping back and forth. We've had the beginning of what may be, a little bit more of a choppy period here. We drew these rising wedges on pretty much all the indices. We've had a few outside days the week before last, on Tuesday the 29th and the 31st. And last week, of course, we had another rally in the market. But to me, it still feels like even if we have another up week, we're just getting to the point now where underneath the surface, there's too much of a bifurcation. The NASDAQ 100 shows this a little bit better still, even though we made a fresh all-time high on a closing basis, all-time high on Friday. Again, we here too, we've broken out of the rising wedge, and we can annotate this in whatever fun way we want to, but it kind of all comes to the same thing. So I'd be more careful here. I am more careful. Again, that's not a recommendation. That's just educational here. But hopefully this is something that you're watching as well. Next, we need to talk about the big thing that happened over the weekend, something that my colleague JB has been all over. He's already this morning, once again, all over the in our Trade Ops members area. Hopefully you guys are part of our Trade Ops members area. That's where we share live trades and ideas all day long. Make sure you join that if you don't know how. Just email support@thesteadytrader.com. You can see he's once again offering some amazing trade ideas right away this morning. But let's talk about it quickly. Bitcoin and Ethereum. Our Bitcoin bracket email that goes out every Monday this week highlights that we're now attempting to break above that 120,000 mark. Once again, we seem to back off of it so far this morning, but ultimately, what's really happening is, this is maybe something that you haven't heard yet. I got this from a discussion I had Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember which day it was, so either yesterday or the day before. And what we're seeing is potentially the rally in Bitcoin over the past couple of days, maybe in part on the back of the U.S. administration's sort of threat of tariffs for gold imports from Switzerland and other places. And so some people might be moving over to Bitcoin because there's no threat of that. So again, that's more of a theory than something I can factually sort of give you numbers on. But I'm going to say it intuitively makes sense that may be part of what's going on. And if that is the case, then that would be bullish Bitcoin, certainly long term, but probably short term momentum as well. We are once again in a bullish short term momentum signal in our trender indicator. So hopefully, for those of you guys that are using the trender, you've seen that as well, because it's important, right? I mean, this is an important asset class, becoming more and more important. It's becoming a more global macro story as well. Ethereum, which is something that, in our view, actually has a lot more upside over the course of time. It's very difficult to time this short term, but it is at a pretty critical spot here, somewhere around the 4,400 mark. It previously topped out around closer to 5,000. So we think that's kind of the next stop is, somewhere around 5,000. It seems to have a natural attraction point. The big question that we have is if we see, and this is, I don't have an answer to this, but I think everyone should think about this. If we see a bit of a consolidation phase in the next 2.5 months in the equity market, what does that mean for Bitcoin and Ethereum? And I think the answer is not as clear as people think. The simple answer would be yes, obviously that's going to correct these assets. And I wouldn't disagree with that. That would make logical sense because in many ways, these assets have simply acted as a leveraged bet on basically tech. However, depending on what the news might be or the narrative, if it is such that, people get uncomfortable with the money printing and further devaluation of the dollar, then it would not be impossible to think that equities start to pull back, but the Bitcoins and Ethereums of the world continue to hold up better or maybe even go up. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it shakes out, but that's certainly something that we're watching very closely. And then the last thing I want to quickly point out here is gold. I still have only a third left in my long-term gold allocation. I closed 2/3 of my long-term gold allocation about, at this point, it's probably almost been a month. And that's, that's been the right call so far. So I'm a little bit hesitant getting long gold, quite frankly, at this point, just because I think it's just not really going anywhere. But if we see a breakout, like we've seen gold miners have a real good momentum over the past, week or so, I'm not quite sure. I can't really get my head around that right now, to be honest with you, but gold itself remains consolidating. So, that's the good thing about being able to draw simple lines. The consolidation phase, essentially, that gold has been in since April. It is continuing. It has not changed. If and when we break out, then great. I might get long again. Right now, I'm only a third long in my long-term bucket on gold. Gold miners and gold junior miners, I'll quickly type it in for you guys like this. Again, we were very bullish on this, and you can see they have broken out. Gold has not, so that's kind of like this. At this point, to me, it's always tricky to know how much more can gold rally, gold miners rally if gold's not participating. So, we've had a nice breakout in gold miners. I probably wouldn't chase it here, but the momentum remains bullish. So it's the reward to risk is not as good as it was last week on Monday, 1 week ago exactly, when we started breaking out and started getting the buy signal. So you can see last Monday, the 4th, so basically becoming valid in that last Tuesday, the 5th, we had a momentum buy signal that became valid on the breakout in gold miners and gold junior miners and silver miners and all that kind of stuff. So that's it for here right now. We covered a lot. We talked about the equity indices. We talked about the important week that it is. We talked about Bitcoin. We talked about gold. We talked about some of the move taking place in. Actually, one thing we haven't talked about is this. Let me quickly end with this. This is the momentum moves taking place in marijuana stocks. There's a headline that came late last week, I think, or maybe a bit earlier in the week, about the potential to classify marijuana as a sort of less harmful drug out of the Trump administration. I don't know to what extent that's actually news or more inside rumors, but it was in the Wall Street Journal. And so, we received a momentum buy signal all the way back in early July. I think MSOS, the ETF MSOS, I'll type it into the chat box here, is up about 55%. And that momentum continues. We have a trailing stop along right now around $3. So, just to give you an idea, like this is not fictional. This is factually happening. Just like you see, we had a momentum buy signal back in April, and then a momentum sell signal that made like 13% as well. Now we got a momentum buy signal. So again, a little bit stretched potentially here and now, but if this gets classified as a less harmful drug or whatever the right terminology is, then this stuff can go a lot higher. So that's and Bob, yes, I agree on your commentary there on the psychedelic stocks as well. Those are even more volatile to some extent, but yes, fully agreed. So that's it for now. Again, make sure you watch that podcast that I mentioned before. I dropped it into the chat box. If you are a Trade Ops member, again, we'll see you over in our members area. JB's already busy dropping trades in there. If you, I'm going to quickly drop that over here so you can see this. So hopefully all of you guys that have access are going to join in there, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Eastern as well. Again, please make sure you give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe to the channel. That really helps us be able to continue to do this show. And of course, it allows you to be able to watch, get in real time when we go live.